Okay, good afternoon everybody, and welcome back to the Tour du Monde, stage 10. So we're getting close to the finish, and this is the third time slot. We've already had two run-ins, one at 0100 this morning, and the next one was 7 o'clock. That's Central European time. I'll give you the results of both of those in a moment, but this is the third running now. I don't know how many riders we've got signed up. I know it's not going to be overly well attended on this lunchtime slot. You're going to see the majority of the riders going this evening in the final slot. But it is a sprinter stage, and it is a pure sprinter stage. There's a couple of spikes, but this is one for the sprinters definitely. Now, whether we'll see a break because it's a fairly long stage, or whether we will see everybody staying together remains to be seen. But this is the last chance for the sprinters to gain a few seconds, gain a few points. And for that matter, you can see from the graphic here on screen, there's his first spike, and that may well lead to a little bit of a sort out of the riders, and then we get this second spike. But it's such a long course, there is time after these spikes for riders to find the way back. It's a slightly uphill finish, but that by the time we get there we're almost at the finish. So there's only 222 meters of ascent, so very little really to sort out these riders. And it's 54 kilometers long, so we're going to be here for about an hour and 30 minutes for the majority of the riders. Now, just very quickly, Daniel Badke went in the first run-in and set a 1 hour 33 minute ride, but he was overtaken by the 0700 ride by Christian O'Cullough from Pokemotion, and he put in a 1:26.50. So that's the time in the hot seat at the moment. Christian O'Cullough, 1:26.50. Now, I think that will go. I don't know whether it will go in this slot, but it will certainly go in tonight's slot. We have got some decent riders in amongst, how many we got? We got 27 riders online, so it's improved a little bit from earlier. But I don't really know who the contenders are yet. We'll have to wait and see when they get underway. Here we go, and we're off. Now, obviously, I know most of the riders, so I'll be able to call out the potential winners of this stage. And just looking at the name that I saw there, Frolikov, he's definitely a contender, strong rider. But we'll wait until we get underway a little bit before we start calling out names. Now, I don't expect much to happen here. Maybe they're going to go off, they're going to go full gas from the off, and that's going to lead to a few riders being dropped off the back. But the majority of these riders should be able to hang on and stay in the main group. And if they do that, they're all going to hit the climb more or less together. Now, the climb, it's like I say, it's not that long, but it is enough, I think, to have a bit of an effect. But we've got a fair way to go before we even get to that climb, and by that time we could see a break. But my feeling is that we'll see riders more or less grouping up along the front and staying together. You may get riders, as you can see at the moment, pushing off the front, trying to lift the pace, but we know from the other stages that I've covered here, the sprinter stages tend to be, how can you say, a little bit of a non-event in terms of tactics, because there aren't really any tactics. It's just a case of stay with the group and hang on for as long as you can, and then if you've got anything left at the end, you know, try and push for the win. But it's a little bit hard to commentate on these kind of stages, because you just know that the riders are just going to ride as a pack, and anybody not with the pack will very quickly get distanced. So we should basically see the majority of the 27 that were online, I think maybe 28 now, that were online, and we should more or less see most of them, the majority, in this leading group. And then we've probably got one or two that have been dropped out the back. We'll be able to check up on that once we get into the action. But a long way to go, 54 kilometers. So as I say, the fastest time at the moment is a 1:26. I don't know what to expect in this session. None of the really big hitters, and I'm sure the likes of Brandy and Frolikoff won't mind me saying that. None of the really big hitters are here, so I don't really see Christian O'Culler's time being obliterated this lunchtime. I think it may well get beaten, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of minutes knocked off the time. And just to discuss the earlier running, it does look like Daniel Badker rode the first stage at you know, the first running of stage 10. It does look like he rode it solo and was the only rider taking part, because that goes off I think midnight GMT, and so you're not going to get very many riders unless you get some of the North American contingent getting up and riding it. So that's always a quiet affair. But Daniel set a decent time, but it must have been hard for him to do it all on his own. And then the 0700 setting, we had Christian O'Culler, Bjorn Wentz, he finished with a 1:29, and then Aman Rini took third spot. Wendy Wonder Wheels, who's currently leading the ladies league, she's did a 1:37, and I'm pretty sure she's still well up and in front on the leaderboard. And then Brian Ryan came in fifth, and it was a pretty low turnout. This one's a pretty low turnout as well, although we've managed to get 20. We've got 26 riders now showing. There has been a bit of chatter, I've noticed, in the RGT user support group. There has been a bit of chatter about dropouts and problems with connections, and so that's why you could see riders lining up on the line and then not actually getting into the race. I attempted to ride last night's stage, which was the Channel Tunnel, and I forgot to change my weight, so I ended up I was trying, and I was going at like 0.8 of a watt kilo because my weight was so high, and it would have probably taken me about 4 hours to ride the stage at that weight. So I bailed and just did commentary, and you can find the commentary on my YouTube channel. It was an interesting race actually last night. I did enjoy covering it, but I was a bit sad that I didn't ride it because I'm running out of stages to do, and it does look now I'm certainly not going to ride this one tonight. It's too long. It'll probably take me about 2 hours to cover this distance. So and Saturday's the Friday obviously is the rest day rather. Saturday is the Queen stage, Mount Fuji, and that is a 2-hour ride for the leaders. So there's no way I'm going to attempt that. I'm just not in the right condition. So it looks like I'm left to Sunday because I want to enter the competition to see if I can be entered in the prize draw, and it'll probably be Sunday when I eventually get to riding. And just to mention that ZMS were covering the lunchtime the lunchtime time slots on Saturday and Sunday. And what that means is I genuinely believe, and I've just had a word with Damon, I believe that the Saturday and Sunday time slots that are going to be see most riders are the lunchtime slots. And that's generally what happens on the weekend, because people want to spend time with their families later in the day, in the afternoons and evenings. So I think we'll see all the main contenders going in the lunchtime slots that we're covering. And the race could well be decided on Saturday afternoon on the Queen stage, and if not, certainly on Sunday afternoon before the evening session. But I'm going to cover the evening sessions at the weekend. Now, I would like to cover this evening session because all the main riders are going to go in this sprinters stage, but I've done so much work this last week, I'm probably going to take a bit of a rest. I desperately need some rest time as well. And although tomorrow's a rest day, I do have a busy day on Friday, and I've got my booster vaccination to go through as well. And I do know that is going to hit me because one of the problems I've had has been COVID related. That was the reason why I had breathing difficulties. Now, getting the booster for a normal person would be okay, but I don't really have an immune system, so the booster is going to knock me back. I'm hoping it doesn't kick in over the weekend, but I'm expecting it to do so after 24-48 hours, so we'll see. I was speaking to somebody else about my age with similar complications, and he said it knocked him back for about 3 or 4 days. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, we're looking at Anne Y. Now, Anne has been an absolute star in not just this tour, in the previous tour, the Tour de Alps, where she took part in every single stage, and she's done the same in this tour. Always finishes. She's currently last on the road at the moment, but she'll keep going, and this is a long stage for her. Excuse me. But as I say, there's not an awful lot going to happen up the front end of the race, so that's why we're switching around, and we can spend a bit of time here with Anne, because this stage, really, we're only going to see seconds separating the main contenders when they go off later on in the day. The last sprinters stage we had I think the top definitely the top 30, and it might even have been the top 60, right? Yes, it was the top 60 riders were only separated by 3 seconds. So the sprinters stages tend to, groups tend to get together into large groups and draft off each other. Now, obviously, that isn't happening with this low turnout. We're seeing these riders have been shot off the back. We've got Jo Dulcie here, another lady. She's in the ladies competition. Don't know where she's on GC, but she must be vying for a podium spot. I think she's put in some good rides. We've got Topu from Turkey riding with her, and then Anne Y's partner here, Hawaii. So Barris Topku or Topsu, don't know how to pronounce his name, and they'll just be riding their own race. They're a bit off. They're a bit of a way off the riders in front. There's one rider in the middle, which is Borst, and then a couple of riders strung out before we get to the front end. It does look like the front group has been slimmed down to about 15 riders now. So these riders are the riders that are in between. There's Jo Dose, and you can see she's putting in a good effort here. The red numbers you see, I suspect, is just the braking taking effect. But Jo's capable of putting in decent watt kilos, but because she's such a featherweight, obviously she's not going to keep up with the really big power riders, but she does very, very well. She certainly puts out more watt kilos than I'm capable of doing at the moment. Well, I haven't ridden for 2 months, so, and my attempt last night didn't go well. But I'm not the only one. Damon was telling me that he did the same. He forgot to change his weight, because the reason we adjust our weights, folks, is we run the bots. You know, when we're following the races, we have to run basically fake riders. And we set the fake riders' weights high. In my case, I thought it was 200, but it was 150 kilos. Now I'm only 60 kilos, so more than double my proper weight. So you set the weight high to slow you down so that your fake rider stays at the back of the pack. Because the last thing you want is your fake rider to be affecting the race and riding in the middle of the riders and somebody drafting you. So you set a high weight, and I know Damon does the same. You set a high weight so that you're shot out the back, basically, and you stay at the back for the full race. But what I forgot to do was change my weight prior to doing a live ride, and I will make sure I do that for Sunday. But I'll probably leave it as it is at the moment, because I'm covering the stage on Saturday. I don't think I'm covering this evening. I may decide to do so. I'll wait and see how I feel after I've had a bit of a rest this afternoon. But once the kids get home at 3 o'clock, it's bedlam in our house, and it's hard work with 2 small children. So yeah, tea times, trying to get them to eat, trying to get them to go to bed afterwards is an absolute epic. As those of you with small children will know only too well. I love it, I love being a parent, but I'm an elderly parent, and at my age it's hard work. Now here's Neil Sondergaard. We've seen a lot of Neil, and Neil normally goes with the main group, so he must have decided he wanted to do an earlier running. And I'm sure